I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, January 28th, 2026 Sister City Council Workshop. First up on our workshop agenda is an update from the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office with Lieutenant Davis.
Hello.
Hello.
Don't have a whole lot for you tonight. We're kind of in the middle of that winter time when things are slowing down a little bit, allowing us to catch our breath and work on some other things. We've been continuing to work with Forest Service. We've had some things outside the city that some of our deputies have been working on with some problem camps, and I'm working with Forest Service, coordinating with them and making a difference, at least in one case. And then we've had quite a bit of interactions with Department of Human Services. We go out and coordinate with them and doing home visits and sometimes talking to kids at schools, making sure that they're being safe environments at home. And so we've had quite a bit of that going on in the last couple of weeks. And just your run-of-the-mill calls, parking complaints, that kind of thing, quality of life issues, several barking dog issues and things we've been working on. So
Under my house.
yeah, there's always something, but as far as big calls, big investigations, that kind of thing, it's been pretty mellow. So,
Can I ask about a particular incident? There was a small wreck at Barclay Park. Now, you might have been gone for that. Somebody wiped out the veterans donated bench in Barclay Park, and some of the concrete went through the window in the gallery. And I was just wondering if I could get more information on that.
I'll follow up with you on that. Do you know when it was? It was a crash?
Week and a half
Traffic crash?
ago. Yeah, I think it was a solo, came over the curb, hit the bench.
Oh, okay.
Broke
Okay.
stuff.
Did it pull off? You took off before anybody caught him?
No, I don't think that's the case either, but I don't know what happened, so I just was wondering if we had more info on it. I heard DUI, but I'm not sure. So,
Okay.
nighttime, weekend night, so probably a week ago, Friday or something. I
Okay.
don't know.
I'll
The
check.
bench is destroyed though. Yeah,
Okay.
it was a concrete bench with a wood back that
Yeah.
Band of Brothers donated, and it's pretty far up in the park, so he went before the crosswalk over the curb and hit it and knocked pieces of it through the gallery window.
Wow.
Might have hit the gallery itself, I don't know, but there's a taped off window. So.
Okay. I'll get back to you.
It wasn't you, Kathy, was it? Okay, good.
Yeah. She had to think about it.
She's our traffic person. We don't need her traffic person. Anyway, yeah, just love to kind of find out what happened.
I'll look into it.
Has the lack of snow been a positive overall?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we haven't had as many, obviously weather-related crashes. We still have kind of our normal run-of-the-mill things, but no weather-related. I guess when we had the freezing fog last week, early in the week, we had like one rollover out of town, like Plainview area, single vehicle, non-injury. So yeah, we've had a little bit of that, but not nearly what we normally do this time of year. So
you said you were checking in with kids and they're, kind of making sure everything was okay at home. Is that just with houseless, or is that something you end up doing a lot anyway? Just
yeah, it involves all socioeconomic,
yeah,
from people that are houseless all the way to housed folks, whether it's out in the forest or here in town or out in the county. And so we get what's called a DHS cross report. And so when someone calls into the child abuse hotline, if there's a question about neglect or abuse, whether it's physical or sexual, there's some kind of information. Sometimes it's anonymous, sometimes it's from a teacher, counselor, a citizen. They call the hotline and they report a concern about a kiddo. Then what we do is we assign a deputy to that cross report, and then we coordinate with DHS. And so what we try to do is go to a situation with them, and we go and do a home visit. A lot of times DHS can handle it on their own, but there are certain ones, depending on what house it is, where it's at, what the circumstances are. If there's a report of a crime, like right off the bat on the first cross report, then we get assigned to a deputy. And cross reports can range anywhere from physical or sexual abuse all the way up to like more medical neglect. Kiddos missed 3 dentist appointments in a row. I've seen that one a bunch of times. And so maybe a parent is not taking their child into regularly scheduled medical appointments and things like that. So it can run a whole range of issues, and a lot of times it can be handled just by DHS, and then sometimes law enforcement response. Domestic violence situations too. If a child is exposed to the domestic violence situation, we report that to DHS as well, and then they'll usually assign a caseworker to go out or make contact with that family and ensure that the child is safe. So yeah. Yeah, and that goes all the way up to, when I was in detectives in our detective unit working on child sexual abuse cases, we work very closely with the Kids Center as well as caseworkers to go out and investigate those cases. So,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that's a big part of our job, and what we're doing on a weekly basis is doing that type of thing.
Anybody else? Cheryl, you good? All right. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a wayfinding signage design presentation. And Carrie Prosser will walk us through this. Hopefully wayfind us through this, I guess.
Wayfinding these. I'd actually like to introduce Jonathan Scott, who is one of our consultants, who's joining us tonight, and he's actually going to lead the majority of the presentation. In the staff report, kind of outlined where we've been and the outreach that we've done, which includes open house, online survey, consultant site visit. Jonathan was out looking and auditing all of our signage, stakeholder engagement with 5 different stakeholders in the community that Jonathan interviewed while he was here. We went to the Public Works Advisory Board about a week and a half ago, and staff has had concept review 3 different times. So we've been working our way through this project. I think you all saw pieces of it at the open house that we did in November, and they then took the audit process and kind of went through and worked with us with our survey and have come up with what Jonathan is going to present tonight. So I will turn it over to you, Jonathan, and you can answer questions along the way or at the end, whatever you guys like to do.
Great, sounds good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, so thank you guys so much for having me. Again, my name is Jonathan Scott. I'm a senior project manager here at Destination by Design. And today I'll walk you through the general concepts that we have designed for the City of Sisters. That'll include a vehicular sign, a vehicular sign, a pedestrian sign, a gateway sign, a park entry sign, a kiosk, and a trail marker. And we'll go over all the concept differences for each sign type, the materials that's involved with that, as well as some of the possible variable uses that a couple of these signs can actually have. So I'll go ahead and start my presentation. Is everybody seeing my screen all right?
Yes.
I was told that my cursor needs to be a little bit more visible. Can everybody see my cursor okay?
Yes. The red.
Okay, great. So again, kind of a brief agenda. We'll do it's a concept review a little bit on each sign type, walk you through all the different materials that we had selected, as well as the different variances of what those materials could or couldn't be. And then we'll get into an opportunity for you all to provide feedback, ask questions, anything I can do to kind of help guide this, and then we can talk about next steps if Carrie would like to do so. So before we start any wayfinding project, we always need some sort of brand or visual identity to wrap these signs around. Otherwise, they look like normal DOT city regulatory signs. But we want to make sure that the signs themselves are specific to the place, unique to the place. So we had 2 opportunities here. We had the City of Sisters logo, as well as the Explore Sisters identity. And the steering committee had decided to go with both, actually, but more of the heavier side of that Explore Sisters brand. There was more assets available to that, so that was the direction that we went with, but we didn't necessarily also ignore the visual identity of the City of Sisters logo as well. So what inspired a lot of the materials that we've selected was not only just the brand, but also the existing material structures, environment of the City of Sisters, as well as your sign ordinance that it needed to maintain an 1880s aesthetic. So these are the proposed material finishes that we've come up with. We have a hammered texture ACM, painted powder coated black. We have a darker hue of the evergreen. I'll explain a little bit why we're choosing that. We have a stainless steel brushed aluminum for the channel letters, but there's a little bit of a variance for what we can use for that material too, as well as wood. We have rustic Douglas fir with a dark walnut on here currently. We felt that that was as accurate as a representation of your light posts that you have out there currently. So we wanted to make sure everything in the environment is clear and aesthetically clear, that everything is all nicely tied in. As well as the stone veneer of the siding again at the base of those lamp posts. We wanted to utilize that type of masonry along with the signs as well, which you'll see in a little bit. And then also custom routed white acrylic. This would also be placed on the signs in several different ways. Also gives you a different opportunity as far as price goes, and depending on how much certain items like channel letters or different accent pieces would cost for these signs for implementation. So let's go ahead and jump into the vehicular signs. Something to start off with for vehicular signs specifically. We have two different types of breakaway systems that are relatively standard across the United States. There's a slip place plate breakaway system, which is similar to this MASH 400 system, as well as these Transpo Industries breakaway bolts that are actually standardized from the NHRCP 350. But the MUTCD, which is a standard that we all follow as far as design goes, because if it's going along a roadside and any sort of DOT or DOH road, we want to maintain any sort of safety that we possibly can for any drivers, that may veer off the road. But you'll actually see this particular system along your current roads. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when these are implemented and when these are actually built, the systems themselves are engineered to house a specific, I want to say a specific aesthetic and a specific look, which we'll get into a little bit. So we have these two options here, and I'll walk you through a little bit more in depth about the vehicular wayfinding and why the panels are placed basically where they are based on the breakaway systems that you may or may not be able to utilize with implementation. So jumping into the vehicular signage, as you can see, we have two different types of mounts. We have a flag mount here, and then a center mounted, which I believe we had. I spoke with several of you a little bit about this, and the reason why we had to do this. But for those of you that I had not had the pleasure of speaking with, basically the difference is this post right here can only be utilized if you use a base plate with a breakaway bolt system like this one here. But ODOT, if that's something that needs to be considered, and having conversation with them about, will likely not be able to go down that route for design because this particular thing right here, this NHRCP 350 is out of date. Currently, these breakaway bolts are in testing right now to be what's called MASH certified. These breakaways are MASH certified currently, but they're also kind of one of the only kind of breakaway systems in the market right now that's allowing it. So these are currently being worked on to become MASH certified, but they're in testing right now, so they may or may not let them be utilized when you get your implementation, your permits and things, and way down the road. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys kind of had that underfoot and understood, and as the reason why we have these mounted in different ways. Also, again, we wanted to kind of really give that good nod to the City of Sisters and the Explore Sisters. So we put the finial on top with the S. This is routed aluminum, and then with these textured corbels here. These were actually taken from the city, the city's town hall corbels. You guys have these actually right outside. So we wanted to utilize some of the existing architecture there and kind of give a nod to that. The cool aspect of this here is in order to follow MUTCD guidelines, which we always recommend to make sure that we're following safety standards across the United States. there's a 70% ADA requirement, which means that for the contrast, the copy and the background needs to be 70%. We didn't, based on our public meeting and several feedback in the past, we didn't necessarily want to get kind of pigeonholed into the black. So what we decided to do was come up with this dark green, this evergreen version, and maintain that 70%, as well as giving the vehicular sign some additional color, which was requested during the public meeting several times. So that was I think a great win and great direction for that. Another little kind of piece that I would like to draw the attention to is that 1880s aesthetic is a lot of that peg and post style. So a lot of these panels, these are actually three different panels sandwiched together, and the through bolt itself is actually capped or painted with a like a wood texture or a wood looking bolt, kind of like making it look like it was pegged through, giving it a nod to that particular aesthetic. And we thought that was really cool opportunity here. As well as we have the Explorer Sisters mountain silhouette cut out here at the top to really give that good identification of where folks are, without having sisters right real big above it, because you don't want to have it on the gateway and then on the vehicular signs. We just want to make sure that we're really encompassing the idea of being in the City of Sisters without screaming it at them, if that makes any sense. Excuse me. These posts, there's a couple of variations of these posts as far as materials go. You can do an 8x8 timber or pressure treated wood and stained. This down here is representation of a wood post breakaway system, which you guys have currently on your gateway systems. This can allow a center mounted post. And then this down here would be the representation of that breakaway bolt system down here. And then this post could also be, if that's the case and you guys need to go with the 4x4, you could do an aluminum 4x4 post. This particular system only allows a 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch square tube or a 4-inch post. So a little bit of variance here. But this could either be wood also, or it could be routed, sorry, not routed, wrapped vinyl to make it look like wood. Keeps up the maintenance really well. It's a little bit more expensive on the front end, not as expensive on the back end. Here's another variation of this vehicular sign as well. We have a little bit more of a simplified version of that corbel here. Everything else is virtually the same as what you saw up here. But we wanted to make sure that if this was a little too busy, but we definitely wanted to make sure that this type of architecture was utilized as far as decoration goes, we can put that in there as well without making it too obvious as well. All right, let's jump into the entry signage. So these are the gateway signs. We have a large gateway here. This would be representative of your park entry sign, as well as a vertical sign here. The reason why we designed this is just because we, based on our site visit, there were some locations where a gateway could be utilized. However, the footer situation might be a little bit too small for a double post. So we gave you guys the opportunity to have a vertical sign for, areas that might have some limited space for installation for footers. Here you can see down here at the bottom, we do have that masonry, again, as the nod to those light posts that you guys have out there on Cascade. Same standard structure here as well with the wooden posts. Again, these can also be wrapped in powder coated vinyl. And then the post construction, again, same as the vehicular at the front with the ACM hammered texture up here, backed by a wood panel. And then up here would be an ACM cutout, either powder coated or just regular automotive painted with either vinyl or these little squiggles. Everything that's kind of highlighting the texture and everything. The snow of the mountains could actually be routed, and it could be three-dimensional. Again, that's a budget opportunity for you guys to decide kind of how in depth you wanted to go for the actual implementation part of it. So this and this all reflects in the same, including this up here, all the same type of material. The main difference here in the vertical sign is this is all just basically a 1 foot cabinet, which means it's a foot deep on this side, wrapped with this ACM powder coated black aluminum to kind of give it that nice border, as well as the same kind of panel discussion here for the hammer texture. Um, and this would also can be single or double sided, which is a great opportunity for you guys there, depending on where the location will end up landing. One thing I did want to mention here is this lettering. Um, there's two opportunities here, which I had kind of briefly went over before, the acrylic or this brushed aluminum stainless steel. All these letters could be routed to stand off so that they're nice and clear and easy to read. Contrast was a big thing during our public meeting and through several of our conversations with stakeholders. So we wanted to make sure that we took good care of that, and made sure that contrast was very well established on these signs. This is another version of that same sign. Basically, the difference is having your masonry at the bottom of each post versus one large piece at the base. This was a special request by the steering committee to see kind of what would look best. I think a lot of folks are kind of torn back and forth, but again, footer will come into play based off of what is able to be put in the location. But it'll be a good opportunity for you all when fabrication becomes part of the play, to work with the mason to decide whether you would like to do a full masonry footer or just the per post. So these are the entry signs. So moving on to the pedestrian signs, we have here kiosk 1, kiosk 2. This is a mile marker, and the pedestrian directional here. We narrowed down the kiosk sign for kiosk 1 to keep it relatively simple. And again, aesthetics is super important to make sure that everything is clean and clear. That way, no matter where you are and you see one of these signs, you feel and know that you're in Sisters, Oregon. So again, the posts, same representation of all the others. The panels themselves, it still has that reference at the top of the mountain cutout here as well. But you have an opportunity here for park names, replacing some of the park kiosk signage that you have there without, I noticed you have very, very large kiosks there. Utilizing these, you can actually save some space and give a little bit more aesthetic to the view of the park around it. Give an opportunity for Explore Sisters to develop a good map for the locations as well as a directory, and then utilizing these Explore Sisters branding colors to identify commonality destinations like parking and trail destinations and things like that. That way, at a glance, people know kind of what they're looking at and where to go. But we also didn't want to just kind of narrow it down to this one particular kiosk. The reason being is because this kiosk right here also could serve in several different locations as well, which we're working into the location plan. But this has the entire map of Sisters, and given the ability to have some QR codes or some digital representation if needed, Explore Sisters will do a great job with developing and designing that panel here as well. This is an example of what we have, what we came up with from what exists currently on your masonry kiosks that you guys have in downtown. This mile marker here is we wanted to make sure that it was abnormally large. The reason being is because you have two existing, I'm going to call them regulatory pedestrian signs just outside of what's going to be the Gateway Park. One of them is a stop sign, and then on the other side it says no motor vehicles. This sign itself can replace those types of signs and still act as directionals, and still help with regulatory guidance as well, like stop, no entry, no motor vehicles, and such. So that's the reason why we made it so large. We wanted to make sure that you had many variable purposes for this particular sign. Plus, this seems to be a lot of a great direction for folks when building trails, maybe not necessarily mountain bike trails or anything, but when you're coming up to a T in an intersection or something like that, you really have a sense of location when you come up on a sign like this versus a little 4x4 in the ground. So there's the mile marker. Now the pedestrian directionals are really special because it's actually designed to be a detachable panel. The reason why is because we wanted to make sure we utilize the masonry and the post to maintain consistency across the signage family, but we also wanted to take advantage of your posts, your light posts here as well. A couple of variable concerns that have been brought up based on the amount of stuff that's on these posts, but based on the location that we're actually kind of presenting these, we don't. We can do one of two things. We can consider kind of moving the location and try to redesign that, or whether or not some of these items could be removed specifically for one of these posts or two. Actually, I think there's two locations that we have on the plan. So really special opportunity for you all here. The reason why we took the detachable panel route was because you guys have a beautiful walkway here, and design, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't adding more signage to it. Even if we were to replace this, in my opinion, the chamber sign here could have been cleaned up if it was put on an existing post. That way it can still serve its functionality without actually losing any of your footer space. So that is the pedestrian sign that we've developed for you all. Something has been brought up about the destination names. I think that you guys have plenty of destinations here. Another great thing about this is even if we don't decide to fill these all with the location plan, we can shrink or expand however we need to. The great thing about pedestrian signs is they're not limited to roadside necessity, meaning like a lot of the vehicular signs will need to maintain civic and public destinations due to METC guidelines and the possibility that we always don't recommend putting businesses on a vehicular wayfinding sign because if a business goes out, then unfortunately the sign is now outdated. So we want to try to avoid that as much as possible. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging in there with me, going through all these concepts. I'm sure you guys are relatively familiar based off of kind of a lot of the things that we discussed during the public meeting, but I'd like to go ahead and open up that opportunity for you guys to ask some questions, and I'd love to clarify anything if I need to, if we got time.
Sorry. So I guess I'm curious, what, there's some level that, of materials, things like that, that I really don't have familiarity with. And I like the designs, I don't have any real questions there or comments besides that. I think they're very attractive. It seems very well thought through.
Thank you.
What kind of feedback do you need from us to move forward? Because I don't want to shirk responsibility, but I would look to Public Works to help us figure out what the best materials are, whether it's something wrapped or if it's just it's standalone. But I'm willing to dig in where you need us to.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I guess I'll start, and then Jonathan, if you can jump in. I think tonight we're really looking at, as you look at the design and what those look like, is there anything that you're seeing that you would like to be different, or do you like those pieces? I agree. I think that, as we get into the next steps, and we've had some questions about what those next steps are, which include, getting those plans for those signs solidified and talking with Public Works about what kind of materials would work the best where we are, and then getting some quotes on potential, like just getting a range of what these might cost is part of those next steps as we move forward. So we know these will be phased. We won't be able to go in and do the whole city at once. So that's part. So really just feedback on any of the, what you like about it, if there's anything you don't like about them. And just, one of the things that I noted that when Jonathan was talking about the pedestrian signs and kind of putting them on our existing posts, there's really only 2 posts, and the conflict that we have with that is actually the snowflakes. They drop too low. So I think we probably can work around having 2 less snowflakes out on the highway in that. But I think just whatever your thoughts are on that, Jonathan, unless you need other feedback than that.
I think the materials was really kind of the main thing. Aesthetics is also very important as well. I just wanted to make sure too that you all have the opportunity to speak your minds because if any adjustments need to be made, now would be a great time to do it. Everything was designed with regulatory guidance, but as well as a lot of the existing aesthetics out there. But I'm in Boone, North Carolina, so I just want to make sure that we are we're following the aesthetics that the City of Sisters has worked so hard to achieve.
I have a kind of a comment question. I understand the 2 different designs for the automotive signs, the flag versus the center. When we go to the center design, it kind of, for me, loses the bias relief of the mountain at the top. It kind of begins to look like 2 little lumps on either side of a post. And so I have a little concern if we have to go with the center post design. As I like the flag better, but I understand too that we may have to look at the center post design. I'm thinking that if we do that, it may require some tweaking of that mountain imagery at the top so that it doesn't look like some kind of a mistake as opposed to a bias relief of our landscape.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. I like the flag better, except I don't know if flags have more of a tendency to kind of get wind damage or, hit by a wide semi making a corner too tight or something like that. But yeah, I like the flag better, and I thought the same thing about the mountains kind of get lost if it's centered.
I'd like to follow that up as well, Jonathan. On that center post, the graphic's a little hard to see. So my question is, are the mountains a different color than the sign itself?
Yes. Wish I knew how to zoom in on this. Yes, so the panel itself is this evergreen color here. And then the background of this is the black hammered texture. This panel wouldn't be hammered texture, but would be the black aspect for that I'm gonna say called the middle panel.
Okay. It might be just, you might want to think about getting some of the, I don't know how you do it, white snow on the caps so it gives a line across the top that makes it look like mountains. I don't know. That's just a thought.
It's great feedback.
I have another sign I would like to talk about a little bit, and that's the mile marker sign. Can you go to that one, please?
Sure.
You mentioned Gateway Park and how that might replace other signs. Can you talk about that a little more? Is it replacing a stop sign, or and if that's the case, where's the stop sign on that mile post?
So the panels themselves are based on conceptual design. They are. Let's just imagine that 2 mile or where those arrows are blank, and you have the opportunity of kind of laying out how you want the messages on those particular panels. So it doesn't necessarily need to be on this in this particular way, but I would imagine it would be where the 2 mile marker is, and then your directionals could still remain underneath.
Okay.
And then as far as the no motorist, I would recommend cleaning up that a little bit and taking away the actual verbiage of no motorist and just doing an icon where it shows maybe the motorcycle with the line through it.
Jonathan, for clarity, these are those mile marker signs that you're asking to replace. These are currently on the path. They're not on the road, correct? So there's a stop sign, I believe, on that path, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And
yes,
so
on the
it's
path.
not on the road, it's actually on the path.
Jonathan, help me out. I believe in other parts of the country on some of these paths where you've come up to an intersection that required you to yield the right-of-way, i.e. stop, that on that design that with the 2 on it, that there actually was a stop sign symbol embedded in the upper part of that column, which is probably wider than 4 inches, I'm guessing. Is that correct? Have you seen those?
Yes, and a lot of those are routed specifically for those particular posts. I would imagine, it might save you guys cost a little bit more to do pre-made acrylic pieces that you can just zip it right in to it. Also, the stickers, the reflective vinyl stickers would work as well. They don't necessarily need to be a standard size as far as this goes. But what we're kind of suggesting here is more of a 6x6 and not a 4x4. So a little bit bigger, a little more space.
Cheryl, go ahead. Oh, you're
You're
muted.
muted, Cheryl.
I gotta do that too. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so
Hi.
much. I'm just really impressed with the design. I really love it. I love the theme. On the vehicular signage, same comments from me. I think the mountains at the top is just a fantastic little touch. And I don't know if that could be stood out more, if they could be a little bit larger or whatever. That would be nice. And I do like the flag as well because I like the idea of being able to do something with the backside, as you pointed out there with that example of the forest and the deer. Um, and then I also really like the finials and the corbels. Is that how you pronounce it? Corbels? Corbels?
Horribles. I think I actually didn't know how to pronounce that until I started working with you all. I just always call them, like structure supports or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just those little touches to me just really make the signage stand out. And I realize every little bit adds more to the costs, but I'm hoping those can stay in because I just think they're really beautiful.
Cool.
Great job. And then um, I I really like the full entry sign, the full base, as opposed to the open one. Again, it seems like I'm liking everything that's probably going to cost more. But it just to me speaks a little more, is a little more voluminous, a little more grandiose, if you will. Um, and then I don't know if we're at the point of talking about what goes on the signs, but maybe rather than Welcome to Sisters Oregon, instead of Oregon, we would have the established date of our town. Um, and then I did get feedback from a business owner on Hood, which runs parallel with Cascade, which is pretty much our main street, that did ask if we could have some pedestrian signage that on Cascade that says more shopping this way, to the side streets, because our businesses do extend beyond just the main street, and they'd like
Right.
to see some more directional, signage towards them. Other than that, I think it's great. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Great, great. Thank you for your notes. I appreciate it.
Is there any discussion on the welcome to sister signs of having anything on the backside? I mean, I don't know what it's to do with the location, like, thank you for visiting, or, see you soon, or, the usual.
That could be open to interpretation. We can always consider that. One thing I did not mention, and I apologize that I didn't do so, is MUTCD guidelines state that there is nothing allowed on the back of these signs. That's not to say that we have designed and implemented those in other areas. The reason why I'm saying that is because it is always an engineer's interpretation of what they consider to be the safest. And if it's large graffiti, something very obvious on the back of signs, they're going to say no. If it's subtle, folks aren't going to be staring at the other side of the street. They'll more likely agree to it. The reason why we don't necessarily push it is because of that safety concern. But we also do want to present that as an opportunity as well, without um, putting it away in case that is an opportunity for you all. As far as the back of the sign on the gateway, based on the locations, a lot of gateways are skewed kind of at a diagonal um, angle, especially where we're considering some of those locations. So nobody would actually see necessarily the back of the sign. If there is a location, for sure that we are positive that folks will see the back of the sign, we can make that adjustment to the back. A lot of signs that we've also done in the past is on the back. That way, it doesn't have any negative space or any unused space. We will put something on there, whether it be a graphic or something, just to really solidify that we've considered all sides of these signs. The thing is with that is that's an additional panel for the fabricator. So again, that's also a budgetary item to be taken into consideration.
Sure. All right. Thank you. And on the flag signs, I think, I mean, I totally understand don't want it, the backside too distracting. However, I feel like, and it would depend on the location. Sometimes, because drivers are on the right side of a road and pedestrians, depending on the road, are usually on the left side. So, people walking also read signs too. So even if they're not geared, specifically to pedestrians. So I could see some value in having information on both sides. But I understand. And Mutsty that's all streets, right? It's not just like ODOT right away or anything like that. Is that correct?
Right, that would be for all streets.
Okay.
And also to kind of nod on your idea of on both sides, that is a great opportunity. Yes, I agree. These panels are designed to be double-sided. That way they can have directions coming from both sides. And then the plan and as it's developing for the destinations that are going to be going on with these signs as well, have consideration to these. So, for example, if we have a civic destination on one of these vehicular signs and it's in close proximity to that pedestrian sign, I don't always recommend putting that same destination on the pedestrian sign. One, because it's repetitive, but two, your traffic has changed from vehicular now to pedestrian. So now that you're entering into the traffic as pedestrian, your thought process and your direction is a little different. A lot of the folks that are considering those destinations that they're going to nowadays have already kind of decided those locations. Now the signage is there to support not only environmental um, uh, um, uh, aesthetic, but also to keep people circulating in the space and up at a glance and they're like, oh, this is here too, this is here too, and that way you can keep people circulated and they stay longer. So that's the ultimate goal for the destinations. But I absolutely do agree, and we are taking that into consideration during the plan.
Okay. And then I just had one other thought. I don't, in this process of bringing in the fire district and law enforcement as well, just for visibility and in different light conditions, or I know these aren't emergency signs or, really important in that regards, but just want to make sure that, I think sometimes they have a really good input on signs since they have to use a lot of them. So they might have some interesting insight. Also, if we should be making signs out of wood or not. They're beautiful. And yeah, and I forgot to say, these are great. These are fantastic. Thank you. I'm really enjoying them. Forgot the compliment part.
No worries. I appreciate your notes. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Jonathan or for myself?
I had a question. Is there in part of this process, I can't remember, is there a map of locations that these might be going at?
So we're working on the placement map now. We're keeping that kind of at our staff level. I'm likely that will come back in your final, because we'll be back with final documents for you. When we brought it to Public Works Board, it was 83 pages.
Oh.
And we gave them at 2:30 for a 4 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
We're generous like that. So they did some homework for us. We're still doing homework on that.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to whittle down. One of the things that Jonathan coined the term sign litter. And I think a lot of us have picked that up, when you start talking about signage, you start seeing signs. and trying to keep down the sign litter in our town and making them as effective as we can without over placing signs.
You know, and I agree with that. When we start talking about street signs, vehicular signage along the street, especially on Cascade, and we start talking about pedestrian signage along the same street, I think that there are times when, like you said, they may be too close together, and it may be that we have to consider, if it's possible, to put on the backside of a vehicular sign, where it's blank, another panel that says that is a pedestrian sign, and utilize that same post on that same corner, or coming up on that same corner. And I understand the logic of the difference between pedestrian thinking and vehicular thinking. I'm thinking right now about just clutter and as you say, sign litter. And it may be that based on where these signs, vehicular signs, get placed, and we don't know because it's 82 pages long, we don't know yet, we may want to look at the ability to put a pedestrian signage on the backside for that side of the street.
That's good input. And I would say, I can't give you an exact number, but there were just a handful of new signs that were proposed, and there were signs that were proposed to remove. So I think we're kind of going for at least a net zero there without adding too much to the space. And just one of the thoughts that we need to get through this process, work on placement, these are our next steps, finalize the implementation strategy. This will come back to council for final, but one of the things that we'll have to start thinking on in that same time is phasing, getting some cost estimates and kind of where, and one of the, just to put it in the back of your head, one of the areas that I think could be a potentially great testing ground for almost every one of these signs is the Gateway Park. It will probably hold every example of these signs. So that's one of my thoughts, and I just want you guys to kind of have that in your head as we go into goal setting and some other budgeting pieces. I could see that park being an example. But I think that would be just we'd see what everything looked like from that park. So
I just while you were talking, Gary, I was thinking about the Explorer Sisters logo that we're seeing here. I'm assuming the city has rights to be using that. Is that correct?
yeah, they are partnering with us. So Scott Humphrey is on our stakeholder group.
Okay.
And they're very generous with that piece, particularly with the city. They have worked in conjunction with us on all of this process. So, and we'll probably be very big hands in developing things like, as you're seeing on the screen, the maps at our kiosks that we have right now. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments?
It's really good and exciting.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and I like what I see. When I look at the kiosk maps that we have there and the other examples, I'm realizing as I think about this that in about 3 years, hopefully we're going to have a problem, which is that a part of our city will not be represented on those. So as we think about the design and the way that we build those in terms of space, that maybe the area that the new urban growth boundary will expand into have something in it that we could lose in order to get the entire map in place. And I'm sure this has already been thought of, but it popped into my head, so I had to say it.
And
All
of course,
right.
we'll have an Adams streetscape, so we'll have a whole nother
Yeah.
block.
Yeah.
And that'll be a blank slate as well, a little bit like the park, Gateway Park. It'll be a good place to maybe test some of this stuff out, so, in the phasing.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, Jonathan. This was fantastic, and thanks for sharing your time with us, and look forward to, we'll see him again probably.
And
Maybe.
we're still trying to schedule that, but sometime
Okay.
in the next no more than 2 months, I would say.
Okay,
2.5. Yeah.
all right, fantastic.
It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we're out of time here for our workshop, so propose that we end right now, and we'll just move our other business to the regular meeting at 6:30. So adjourn the workshop, and we'll see everybody at 6:30. Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Sister City Council for January 28th, 2026. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. call, please.
Mayor Letts,
Here.
Council President McDougall,
Here.
Councilor Predin,
Here.
Councilor Ross,
Present.
Councilor Pellerin.
Here.
All right, we're all here. Can
I move to approve the agenda.
somebody read my mind? I guess that was
I'll
you.
second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have any visitor communication today?
We do. Mark Dickens.
Yes. And I know you know the rigmarole, but just a reminder for everyone to come up, to state your name and your address, and usually people give around 3 minutes for their comments. Thank you.
Mark Dickens, 133 East Black Crater Avenue here in Sisters. Council, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Well, the saga continues regarding my property. There's a little good news. The building official for the county has retired at the end of last month. Sadly, he didn't have the decency or the integrity to resolve this whole mess before he departed. So he's gone off into retirement and left all of us to figure out this destruction, this wasteful damage that he left. There's a few things I just want to kind of reiterate and emphasize here. Obviously, I'm not going to have much time to talk about all this in detail. I'm not sure why the city has been so incapable of responding to very simple questions that I've asked about this dispute. I sent an email to your city manager on December 15th asking some very simple questions, and I've to date not gotten a response. If the city is so confident in their interpretation of this land use by your city manager or whomever is doing it, then why not answer the questions? I've also suggested that if there's a clear violation to my building, then cite it. File a formal citation, infraction with code enforcement. This just shows me right here that the city doesn't know what they're doing, and they're just making stuff up. And we all know that relevant documents have been thrown away, disposed of, lost, whatever you want to call it. So this pattern of conduct is really quite concerning and disturbing to me. I also want to remind the council that in 2020, your director, Scott Woodford, did a formal review of my property at the request of the county. I provided all the necessary documents, including a survey map, architectural drawings, everything, and they went through and did a full review to make sure the property was in compliance with zoning, code, et cetera, et cetera. This was done not at my request, but the request of the county. I have all the emails, I have the correspondence. This was done 5 years ago. So it's quite perplexing that 5 years later, the city decides they want to reinterpret my land use approval for my house and claim that it's not a legal residence. So I hope you have a good explanation, and I would really think that the format to answer these questions would be in an email and not a deposition, but that's where we're going if this is not resolved. I know this may sound like hollow threats, but I would not let the past deceive you or indicate the future. What's to come is going to get really uncomfortable and ugly for everybody if this goes to a lawsuit. I've asked for documentation. I've asked for things to be clarified. The very file that the city has held for years that claims they no longer have my architectural drawings that approve the house as a residence, I got these documents from the file which show all the building inspections that were done. So how is it that these are available, yet the city claims they dispose of them after 2 years, but yet the architectural drawings are just mysteriously missing? That would be very favorable to me. This is the stuff that's just really should be concerning, and either this again is a pattern of behavior of conduct by county officials that the city is engaging with and utilizing, relying on to perform these critical services which they are utterly failing at, or I'm being singled out. So either way, this should be concerning and disturbing for anybody. This is just wasteful. I know you had your executive session back in January 7th of this year to talk about what I have to guess is future litigation. Why not just work, in good faith to resolve this? Is this really the direction the city wants to go? It's not the direction I want to go, but I've already hired an attorney. They're already reviewing documents, And I'm up here to just demonstrate and show a record that I've made every attempt to resolve this, short of filing a lawsuit against the city and the county. There's absolutely no reason for this. I have buyers that are trying to buy the property, and this is interfering, and it's interfered for years. This is the conduct of your building official, driving around my neighborhood, taking spy photos of my house, and lurking in the bushes. This is how they use their time and their money and their resources. This is who you've contracted with and you've engaged to do these critical functions. Yet the house that caught fire a couple years ago because of the illegally installed hot tub, they never bothered to go and inspect that. To date, that house still doesn't have a permit for that. So another example of just this arbitrary, bizarre enforcement. So again, I don't want to have to keep coming in here, but something's got to shift, something's got to change. And maybe there's an opportunity with this building official now that's departed, that common sense and rational thinking can prevail. I've talked to the county yesterday, Eric Kropp, had a nice conversation. He's going to talk to Stephanie Marshall, county legal, and see if we can resolve this. But the city needs to take some responsibility for this. You have responsibility. Your job is to work for the citizens, not against them. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Carla Bailey.
I've never done this before. Hi, I'm Carla Bailey, and thank you, Mayor, and everybody for letting me speak. I live at 329 South Jefferson Way here in Sisters, and my husband's not here right now. We also have I've lived on the island of Kauai for coming up 49 years, so I might say aloha every once in a while. But anyway, and I met you one day, my husband and I. Anyway, we are interested in buying Mark's property, and I just kind of wanted you to know who I am. And we have not done anything, no formal offer or anything, but I think just our fear is we don't want to buy it and then just have the biggest headache that ever ached our heads. So anyway, I wanted you guys to know who I am, and that we would love it if whatever you can do for Mark or for us, should we purchase it, that we are not walking into a can of worms, that it's, pretty easy to live there and keep what's existing there. We don't want, we would not want the manufactured home gone. We know actually from living on Kauai how hard housing is, and so where we are living, we would move out, we would move into the manufactured home, and then in the garage, the apartment above, we would rent it. So by us doing that, that gives 2 more housing opportunities here, which we, and we're not gougers. If you knew what we rented our place for on Hawaii, you'd want to move there today, because we try to do the low income so that people can have a home. So if whatever you can do to help Mark or to help me, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
None other.
Okay. And not online? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Do I have, let's see, consent agenda, a motion, and on our consent agenda is just the minutes from our January 14th meeting, and approved changes to our 2026 City Council meeting schedule. Had to move a few things around because of some holidays. So do I have a motion to approve that?
Well, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Fantastic. All right, on to council business. We have a public improvement contract for well number 3. And Paul Bertagna with Public Works is going to walk us through this interesting project.
Thank you, Mayor. This project has been in the works for a while. Took a while to get through design, permitting, and funding, and we are to the point where we put the project out to bid. We got 6 bids, which was about 3 more than I was anticipating, which kind of lends itself to a more favorable bidding climate. Robinson and Owen Heavy Construction was the low bidder on the project. And the project itself is essentially a redundancy emergency preparedness project. So it does that well is one of our largest producing wells, and it's a well that we use during the summer, during the fire season. It does not have backup power. It wasn't designed to have backup power, wasn't funded to have that. So the biggest thing is to purchase a big 250 kilowatt generator, have that available with a 500 gallon diesel tank to be able to operate the pump without refilling the tank for up to 3 to 4 days, depending on the demand. And then we also have a portable trailer that we can bring in diesel as needed to keep that generator running, potentially as long as the event requires. The second part of that project is it was installed with just a regular soft starter to the well pump, which is essentially when it turns on, it doesn't ramp up, it's full bore, pumping whatever it can possibly pump, typically around 15 to 1600 gallons a minute, and which is why we use it during the high demand season, irrigation season. The variable frequency drive allows us to dial that pump into a certain output of flow. So we can, if we are in the shoulder seasons and we need that well pump to run at 1,000 gallons a minute, we can turn it down and we don't over pressurize the system. So provides more redundancy in those shoulder seasons because without it, we would over pressurize and create issues in the distribution system. So with that, there will be a stone veneer enclosure matching the existing building around the generator. And then we have to move the electrical service to the outside of that enclosure. And then we have some SCADA control and telemetry improvements to make inside the building. So with that, we're excited for this project. We're recommending the approval of the contract with Robinson & Owen. Any questions?
This is always a learning ground. So what causes such a large gap in the bids?
It's hard to say. It really is. I was surprised by that. I thought the two lowest bids were very competitive, but the high bid, they were out of the valley. Didn't really have an experience with those contractors. So I think another part of it is what subs they're going to be using. And the big sub is the electrical contractor. So Robinson & Owen is using a local commercial electrician, Tomco Electric. The guys out of the valley were probably bringing their electricians over. So,
Okay, so like
could be that.
travel, that kind of expenses, et
Yep.
cetera. Just curious, that
I was too.
shockingly large gap there.
Yep.
And just to reiterate, this was planned, it's in our 2023 water master plan update. So this has been in the works for a while, and will provide some really great, important redundancy and resiliency that we don't currently have. And I think you also noted the ability to kind of, isolate our reservoir and things like that if and when it needs work. And we know as we're going to add a new reservoir, we'll probably have to do that at some point. So.
Well, did I not read this also would allow, if you had to do some upgrading to electrical transmission and things like that, you could take the system offline, the electrical feed from the community offline while you're doing that work and still keep the pump running.
Could do that, as well as we'd be able to isolate and take our reservoir and transmission mains offline, because we'll have more operational control with it.
All right, Cheryl, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. All right, well, I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I move to award a public improvement contract to Robinson & Owen Heavy Construction in an amount not to exceed $299,970 for the well number 3 improvement project, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and any necessary contract change orders and/or amendments within a contract contingency amount of 5% of the contract amount.
I can second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's all five of us. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. It's an exciting project. If you nerd out on these things, so. All right, short agenda this evening, so we're already on to other business. Does City Manager Wheeler want to respond to prior meeting public comments?
Just to recap, there was a few comments about the urban growth boundary process and the area-specific planning. You had some comments about you had Christine Funk talking about tiny homes on wheels. And so I think council sort of addressed that at the end of the meeting a little bit in terms of talking about that at goal setting and our affordable housing efforts. Sisters Trail Alliance, Stephanie Presley was here asking for the letter of support. And I think there was questions about the level of engagement that was needed from the local government representatives. So we got a little bit more clarity on that, and there was support for the letter and opportunity to kind of figure out what or who should be on that committee, should they be successful with receiving the grant. And then Easter Seals Oregon was here as well, talking about their employment program. So not a lot to respond. I think there was a little discussion at the end of the last meeting about public comments.
And I'll follow up on the STA letter and ask, because I know they wanted somebody from the city, and I did talk to Stephanie last week, and I think staff and some other people did too for more clarification. The grant wanted somebody from quote-unquote local governments, which kind of is us, though, we did talk. I was like, that could be the county as well, and she didn't think that somebody would really need to be fully engaged for about another year, maybe early 27. And so what we did was I kind of offered up that I would participate, knowing that very well it might not be me or a counselor, but we also thought for further discussion, maybe if once they win the grant and we know more, because it could also be somebody from maybe the Parks Board, as well as an idea, or the PWAB or something like that. So, or the county as well. So, but she just it sounded like they really needed to have somebody from local government to really kind of solidify that agreement. So I said, yeah, and I think personally I'd be happy to do it, but it's hard to know what our schedules are going to look like in a year. So. And then also there was an understanding, even though it seemed like it was a large time commitment, the Travel Oregon, I think, had said they weren't expecting everybody to show up at every meeting, and they knew it was a large time commitment too. So they just wanted to make sure that people weren't scared off by that. So yeah, and unless anybody has any other thoughts about that, I just felt it was the right thing to do so they could just get that grant out the door and best foot forward.
I appreciate your contacting them, and you and I discussed it a little bit, because I can't really commit to that kind of a time commitment. I think we all had the same concern, but I think it's important that we be represented at that table, whether it's through the Parks Board or from this group. So I think your willingness to step up at this point in time and be that intermediary until we get to the hard, heavy work maybe in January, February of next year. About a year from now, we start talking about it differently when plans look a little bit.
And I'm sorry I wasn't here, but I encouraged the Easter Seals representative to come to City Council.
Oh, okay.
And I did have a discussion with the tiny home group as well, so I kind of encouraged them to come. Hey, just bring your ideas to City Council. Yep. So 2 of the 3 speakers were here because I talked to them, and I know they probably would have come anyway, but it's always nice to be invited by a member of the council to say, hey, come talk to us. And sorry I wasn't here to greet them properly, so my fault. I was sick, just so people.
Yeah. All right. Oh, I'm the one running this meeting.
That's right, you are.
Okay, staff comments.
Well, sometimes I just roll into staff comments.
Yeah.
Thank you for the City Council open house regarding goal setting. I think we had somewhere in the 40s, somewhere between 40 and 50 people, So another successful night, great conversations. Happy to hear your reflection on that as well. We also have the goal setting open house survey, or the comments are online, available for comments until Sunday. So that survey is still open. I think we have like 150 comments on it already, so there'll be plenty for you to read before next month. We'll be meeting tomorrow as a management team to talk about goal setting, kind of getting ready, updating the status of the existing goals, kind of thinking about what's next in terms of some of the projects and things for you guys to have in hand as you work on goals for next year.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
that meeting?
Uh-huh.
I noticed it's 6 hours. Was it 6
Some-
hours last year?
It was like 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Part of it is we're taking our lunch to go to the Lazy Z to tour the site and kind of look at the future plans for the property too. So
Okay.
yeah. We only get to do this once a year to set goals. So some of it's to preparing for the budget, which, believe it or not, is right around the corner in terms of preparing, the worksheets that Joe's already starting to put together and the projections and things. And then once we have goals, we kind of plug that in to prepare the budget. So it starts early. As soon as you get it done, it feels like you get back at it.
We're going to double our pay this year. Again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think doubling it again would be a good idea.
Yeah.
I mentioned, I think in my report to you last week, I had the opportunity to speak to the high school government class. Had a lot of fun doing that, and hopefully I can speak to other classes in the future and maybe have this as an annual thing to share some knowledge about local government and how their city works. I did a little exercise where it was a mock city council, so I think they enjoyed that. And that's a class that's taught by one of our Parks Board members, Matt McClellan. So nice to have that connection. The point-in-time count, switching gears to houselessness, the point-in-time count is ongoing this week. So you may have seen some information about that. So there's a lag for a couple months between the time they do the count and then when the data is assembled and presented. So don't hold your breath. It takes until the spring until we get that information. Did have the opportunity to tour CORE, and Councilor Breeden probably fill you in on that, but I did want to mention that they were open as a cold weather shelter for the cold temperatures last weekend, and they had, I think, 5 one night and 4 the other night. So 2 nights they were open, so about 5 people were able to stay warm overnight at the shelter. Big news for us is we're back up to our full capacity city recorder starting next week. Monica Burmeister will be starting. You'll see her at the council meeting on the 11th, shadowing Rebecca for that meeting, and then she'll be there for goal setting as well. So looking forward to having her join the team next Wednesday. For our community development efforts, update on the UGB amendment. The land use applications are being finalized right now and under review. I think we're targeting next week for submittal, which comes with a check to the county. But that's a big milestone to have those applications done. And then we'll then start to pivot to discussions and workshops with the council about the annexation policies. And so we're targeting February 25th for the council workshop. And then the area planning process will start to gear up in the spring. So there'll be at least a couple workshops on the annexation policies, and that will carry through to planning commission. Well, not necessarily planning commission on the annexation, but area specific planning will. There's the DLCD grant that Scott was able to secure for the code audit, and so they're beginning work on that. That work is probably going to take place over the next year or so, right, until it comes in front of you as a workshop, and then ultimately hearings to do code updates on our development code. But that whole process of the audit and suggested revisions and presenting that through workshops, and then ultimately having the code changes come through the Planning Commission, City Council does take time.
Some of those code changes are going to kind of some of them might be led by discussions and goal setting as well. Is that?
This is more of looking at our development code, and looking at the barriers our development code may have, looking at the subjectivity, that it might have. Is it consistent with, state policy now on needed housing? Basically get us out of the discretionary path, right, and having a subjective code for housing. There's probably an opportunity as we go through that to kind of revisit some of these efficiency measures, and some of the policies the council's been talking about as well. So those workshops are probably designed, one, to here's what the audit's showing and what we need to do to update our code, but also what are the policy questions that we want to set aside for you guys to discuss as well while we do this. Okay. Northwest Park, we had a lot of great comments the other night at the open house. I think a lot of people came to kind of share their thoughts about the master plan. It went to the Parks Board on January 7th, and then it's coming back to council on February 11th. So I think we're looking forward to hearing your feedback, and you also received the feedback from the Parks Board and the community that we've gathered in the meantime since the last workshop. And it's also an opportunity that I think the funding options and costs will be shared as well. So ask questions about that. Scott and Rima were able to do a presentation or do a talk at the Belfry. I think, was that last week or the week before? There were like 75 people. Is that what? Yeah. So yeah, good community education on our dark skies ordinance. We have that rebate program that is now out there. We'll continue to push that and advertise that. Do we have any applicants yet? Not yet. Nope. So get them while they last. Come on in and talk to us about a rebate. And then on to Public Works. I think I had mentioned this before, that we were successful in getting Pacific Crest bus lines to begin operations at Gateway Park. We're still waiting to get information about when they're going to make that switch and start communicating that to their passengers about that route and the time for pickup. Speaking of Gateway Park, the dog park, yes, that is still in the works. A little dog park there, a little off-leash dog park, which will include like fencing and some work that we need to do there. We're not going to remove any significant trees. We're going to keep most of the landscape and everything, but there will be some mowing or working on the ladder fuels and stuff like that in that kind of scrubby area. I think it would be to the south of the labyrinth is where we have it sort of
between the labyrinth and the parking lot.
Yeah. An update. Jackson might have shared this before. You might be curious. It is sort of a council goal, or has been a council goal, related to Gateway Park with the EV chargers. And that project's funded by a carbon reduction grant from ODOT. There was some pretty big delays with that grant program. I think a fallout from the kind of the federal funding stuff. So we were kind of put on, watch about that and what kind of delays we're looking at. They're now telling us construction is probably not anticipated until 2027 for those chargers. So again, don't hold your breath on that. They're still committed to doing the project, so the funding has not gone away. It just created a pretty big blip in the timeline. And some great news today. Adams has gone out to bid. I think we could do some fun publicity about that because it is a pretty significant road project for us. I know we have some other big projects that we're currently working on and will for infrastructure, but this is a big streetscape improvement project from our Urban Renewal Fund. So it's out to bid starting today. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. That's at least what we're anticipating. I think it's a good time to go out to bid, and bids would be due back at the end of February, 25th. So about a month away until we kind of hear the results, but fingers crossed for favorable bids. And then we're also working on, back to dark sky lighting retrofits. I think the facilities are all done with the fixtures, the restrooms in the parks. Water and wastewater facilities are up next for doing those retrofits. So part of our efforts here is doing all the public lighting, except for, of course, the big one that we need to address at some point in the next 4 years. But we are taking care of the other facilities and park amenities and the like. So any questions for staff?
I attended the Dark Skies presentation. I was hiding in the back. It was dark.
It was dark.
Yeah. So it was great. That was a lot of people, and yeah, they did a great job. I think people were really excited, had good questions. So yeah, hoping to get some rebates coming
Yeah.
in.
Was
Yeah.
was there
Spread the
feedback
word.
from anybody on the rebate program at that? Yeah. I will make a comment on holiday lights, the city's holiday lights. Coming over the pass on one of our cloudier days, foggier days, it was not foggy at the summit. And what is that real bright glow down there? And it was the City of Sisters holiday lights. We don't realize how much light gets cast off because most of the time it's clear. But, and I know that we've got an exemption in there around that whole idea we're allowed to have it, but I was amazed at how much light those snowflakes and other things cast up in the air, along with the lighting we do at our own homes and our buildings. It looked like a major city in that fog bank.
What's the date? February the 15th?
Yeah.
Is when, yeah.
Just comment on that. I'm not finding fault. It was just an interesting aside.
You're talking about my string lights, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Especially that one on the end that goes on and off.
Yeah, it does. They're on a timer, 9 o'clock, so
Yes. Wish others were.
I'm conforming.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. And mayor council business. Anybody have any updates for us? Do you want to start, Cheryl?
Sure.
Yeah, good idea.
I attended the community builders meeting, and along with Councilor McDougall was there, and they had a record-breaking turnout. It was at the Slow Down State coffee shop, and it was really great. It's really great to get with the community, and especially people that are I would say leaders in our community and making things happen. So I encouraged them to attend our council goals open house and saw a few faces there at the open house, which was great. I also obviously attended the council goals open house, as you all did as well. And I just want to compliment the staff again on what a great job. I just thought it was really organized. I felt I had resources in front of me that I could leverage when questions came up. And it was, again, just great to be with the community and hear people's ideas. And then finally, I was contacted by Andrew Shar of Boxkill. They are headquartered here in Sisters, and their whole objective is rethinking the home construction process, so there's less labor and fewer materials and a smaller footprint to hopefully address some of the affordability issues people have today and just trying to purchase a home. I went there last January, and they had a small little miniature model. And they have just notified me that they have a full-scale model now, and they invited me to come out and see that. And I'm just putting the invitation out there to any of my fellow counselors that would be interested in seeing that. Probably happen sometime when I return towards late February. Just let me know if you'd like to go to Boxkill and meet Andrew and Paul and see the work that they're doing there. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Cheryl, I'm interested. Michael
Yeah,
Frieden.
yeah, I am too, but depends on when it is in late February. I'll be at
Okay.
the end of the month.
I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, I'd be interested too, but keep.
Let's all show up the same day.
Right, yeah.
We might, yeah, I'm
Numbers
sure.
and, yeah, right number, right amount of.
Yeah, I'm sure Andrew and Michael can give us more than one tour.
Anyone like to go next?
Yeah, a couple of things. I attended, along with Council President McDougall, the open house at Forest Service. I I won't go into too much detail. I gave a nice lengthy thing to our reporter from the Nugget, and I guess you could read it in the newspaper today. Anyway, but I was very impressed with what they've done, and with the fact that that facility was really constructed as best it could be with this community in mind, not just the needs of the Forest Service, but they took into account the needs of the community with the meeting room space, the outdoor parking areas, probably larger than what they needed for their own uses, so that there'd be some overflow parking on weekend events in that area. A couple of large places to park RVs, a couple of water hydrants so people who are in the forest or whatever have a place to fill water bottles. I think that was very generous for them to do that. When they see the water bill, they may change their mind, I don't know. But I think it was very nice. And one of the things I noticed, we talk about dark sky lighting, is all of their parking lot lighting is very dark sky. And they said they worked with your department on what they needed to do. And again, as a federal facility, they probably didn't have to do that, and they did. And so they're going to be a good neighbor at that end of town, and I was very impressed with that. The only comment I would make, being out in the lobby for the goals meeting, was that we just need to, I think in the past we sometimes did a sort of a switch call, ask people to get up and move between tables. I had some movement at the table I was at, but I had a couple of folks that just kind of stayed there, and I think that their input would have been useful for others to hear, other than just me. And so I think that the fact that it was out there kind of isolated from what was going on in here. So we just need to think that through. I think it was good to have the extra space. I think it helped. But I noticed that there wasn't as much circulation amongst the tables out there as there were amongst the tables in here. And so we just need to think on that one a little bit. And that's, I believe, all that I have.
Right. I can go. Let's go in order. I also enjoyed the open house we had last week for goals and setting goals. Great turnout, and really appreciate everybody who took the time. If I saw some people kind of walk in for 5 minutes and leave a couple Post-it notes, and some that spent the whole time talking and learning and chatting. So always appreciate that, and please fill out the online survey. We look forward to reading those comments. Yeah, it was some really interesting comments. I heard at my table, and just always great to be able to just see old faces and new faces. Good event. And there were cookies, so I think we need to really push that next year, I think, with the cookies. Maybe get a few more people, but
good cookies.
Attended the Sisters Business Association monthly mixer this month. So that was at Rancho Viejo, and good turnout there. So just kind of a great reminder of a great growing group there, of supporting a lot of our local businesses, especially retail, but also other ones there. I mean, everybody's just got amazing things going on, of products, classes, special nights with deals, things like that. So always an enjoyable evening, and look them up. I think they're kind of most reliable on their Facebook page right now. I've found, because I'm not getting any emails. Or is anybody else on their schedule? Or I've asked to be on their email list a couple times, and I'm not getting anything. But I think they're all volunteers, so I think they're putting more of their attention to their Facebook page. So look them up there. Attended the same night Sheriff's Town Hall. Sheriff Rupert came out, and I know Councilor McDougall was there as well. And so he had brought some of his staff members with him as well. You were there longer, so you might be able to speak better to that. But that was nice of him to come out. And not a great turnout, but that's our events out here. Sometimes they're packed, and some days they're not. So that's okay. But yeah, I'll let you talk more since you kind of listened to the majority of that. But yeah, just a lot of interesting feedback on his first 6 months or so in the job. And I also attended, I know Senator Wyden and Representative Bynum had an event, a town hall here as well that they did together. And then they have a separate meeting for community leaders, some elected, some nonprofit leaders, some with districts, things like that. So just to kind of get a little bit more details on what's on people's minds. So it's all of the greatest hits right now. So nothing too shocking, though. You know, I think a lot of, especially a lot of organizations, nonprofits, and other NGOs, it's really hitting them hard now that when people lost grants over the last year, it's really hitting now, and the struggles around that are currently happening, and then they're forecasting. So, you know, I think that was kind of one of the takeaways I got from just talking about, listening to what they had to share. So, and that was a well-attended event, and I enjoy when any of our electeds hold events here. It's great for our community, and it brought in a lot of people, and I know a lot of those people like to stay and have lunch or a drink or dinner as well, so it doesn't hurt business in the off season. So I hope some of our businesses got to benefit from that. A lot of people in town for that event, and I think that was it. Sarah, go next.
Sure. Well, a lot of these are repeats, but I'll share a couple of my...
Second verse, same as the first.
Yeah. The open house, the Goals open house, really appreciated having Jackson at my table, taking notes. It's really much easier to navigate the evening, just being able to talk and not having to think and write. That it's two different functions that don't always work together for me. So I very much appreciate that, and he's also able to help answer some questions, ideas that people brought up. There were actually some things already in progress that we were able to share, you know, up and coming projects. So it's, that's kind of nice. People see things that they would like to see changed, and being able to share that, woo, you know, we're already doing that. Really enjoyed meeting some new people as well. Past counselor came and shared some feedback, which is good, because they, you know, they kind of understand how things work, and you know, tend to bring ideas that are able to be processed, I guess. Community builders, as Councilor Pellerin mentioned, we were both there. I kind of go around the room and you can say something. I brought this up, and I plan to say it a lot. I hope y'all will as well. I just said, hey, you know, we're going to have elections this year, meaning for council, planning commission, going to have some open spots. Start thinking about that, and realizing that maybe from the public view, it might have looked a little rough on council last year. You know, hoping, you know, some of the events didn't scare people away. I offered up, and you know, to meet with anybody who just wanted to talk about what it's really like, and you know, some of the really positive things that you get to do. And I shared that I thought most counselors would be open to that. Not that I committed you to anything, but
that's why my phones are ringing.
Yeah, everybody's calling Gary now. So we just like to put that word out and, you know, get people talking about it. I know it's not like everybody's going to get excited, but if we get, you know, a few people excited, that's enough. Sheriff's open house, I did enjoy that. You know, I could really tell the team's effort there. He had his captains with him, and, you know, really just trying to give the message that things are stable and stabilizing. You know, from his perspective, it sounded like there'd been, you know, it had been uncomfortable for a decade, and, you know, just feeling like the organization's stable, and I think he's trying to get that message out and make the communities feel comfortable with our law enforcement, and yeah, I enjoyed it very much. We had a couple of our deputies there. Lieutenant Davis was out of town, but we were well represented, excuse me. And then, last thing I'll mention, went to the, oh goodness, this time of night I'm looking at the acronyms and thinking, the CROW, which is basically the Houseless Resource Office that's on a, Deschutes County level, and then the Regional Housing Committee Council, gosh, sorry, starting to lose track at this time. Anyway, so we're meeting to try to figure out really what are the responsibilities of these organizations, and then also looking at our Continuum of Care organization, and then the MAC organization, which really has been handling a lot of the financial pieces for houseless work over the last few years. So just kind of throwing things out there and trying to figure out how we can better structure that to work well together over the Tri-County area. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, Michael, take us home.
I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes.
All right.
Which is, for me, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Usually I go,
I can't
let's
wait.
go home. We haven't been here this long, so.
We missed you last time.
Yeah, and I missed the last meeting, so I go all the way back in December. Did you talk about the COCO Annual Summit and Luncheon last meeting?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean,
It was
if there's anything you
fun.
want to add, yeah.
It was fun. A lot of electeds there. It was kind of a weird time in the morning. It was started early, and then people showed up late, and it was a little choppy at times for that, but they were all there at one point or another, so that was good. I thought it was a great time. I love COCO, and I like that event and the way it kind of coalesces the whole region at one time. So it's good. Also in December, we had an Explore Sisters meeting, and it was more of an informal at the barn. Did you talk about that at all? We might have had a beer, and I might have got some free goodies to go take home. That was fun. I think in November we just decided just to get together and kind of just take it down a notch and talk, and we ended up being in the enclosed area tent in the barn, and it was just fun. I mean, my gosh, it's nice to be able to volunteer for something and then get cookies out of it or whatever, so that's always fun. Right before the last city council meeting, we had an EDCO regional meeting, and the most important thing that happened there that I thought was the regional board is creating a new subcommittee, and it's centered on revenue and trying to tweak the model to be more sustainable for Central Oregon, because it's a lot of grants, it's a lot of other governments, it's a lot of big businesses, and there just has to be some ways to come up with some new ideas. And they ask for volunteers, and of course, when someone asks for a volunteer, my hand usually goes up, so I'm going to be on that committee. I won't chair it, obviously, as an elected. I won't be chairing it or anything, but I really wanted to throw my hat in the ring and say, hey, let's come up with an idea out of the box, like we tend to do around here. So I'm going to be doing that. And another thing
that's for EDCO's funding itself.
EDCO's funding itself. And it just has to get a little more dynamic, because their bandwidth is growing because of taking on the child care stuff and all the housing and the associated things that go with employment. I mean, you can't just employ people without kind of helping in all those other areas. And their mission is widening a little bit, so they're going to have to come up with some more revenue and different ways to track it and stuff like that. So there's going to be a whole subcommittee at the regional level to do that and come up with some new ideas. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent committee, but I think that it's definitely something that we're going to do over the next few months, hot and heavy and real fast. So we'll see. There was a speaker there from the airport, and I thought that was cool. I got a lot of good stats. The airport employs 50 people, the terminal employs 500 people, and there's 1,200 people on the site of other business and stuff. That's a lot of employment. A lot of people don't know there's 2,600 acres of airport out there. That's bigger than Sisters by a whole bunch. That's about twice the size of our city. And the most interesting stat that I learned about the airport is their funding. A lot of it's government and stuff like that. But a full 1/3 of airport funding comes from parking. Yep. 1/3 of airport revenue is the parking. So what I'll say about that is it's not going to get cheaper. But you can at least think, hey, at least I'm helping the airport out by parking there. You know what, if you can afford it, great. If you can't, that's fine too. But at least you can know in your head, I'm helping the airport by parking there. And I talked about 50 people that they hire, 1,500 in the terminal, and 1,200 on site. It helps all those people. So you're actually supporting by parking. So there you go.
Only 30% of them.
Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was a really good regional meeting to start off the year. I thought that was really good. Had a SCED board meeting. We had a talk from the COO of Cascade Distillery. He talked about some plans that I can't really share. Obviously, some of these business plans aren't supposed to be public, but I can tell you that the property next to Snowcap is going to be a wonderful thing, and it is going to happen. So if that's anything, they do own that piece of property, and they're going to use it. A little statistic that I got from Eric, our local EDCO rep, about living in the city and working in the city. You might have heard these stats before. Right now, 2/3 of the people that work in the city commute from Bend and Redmond, or at least outside the city limits. Some of them live in Sisters Country, of course, but a full 2/3 don't live in the city limits. And inversely, 2/3 of the people that live in Sisters commute outside of the city limits to go to work. And I wish there was like a way to magic wand that and just reverse those, and everybody who lives in Sisters can just stay in Sisters. The reality is we're a very independent people, and we don't mind driving. We like to live where we live, and we like to work where we work. And you know, you can put as many buses on the road as you want, but most people are going to drive. So that's just how we are. Anyway, that was some good stats from Eric. We had an Explore Sisters board meeting last week. The most interesting thing to note about that is we have a new board chair. That was Brody's first meeting, is that right? Not Brody, Brady. Brady Rhodes from Skian is now the board chair, and Chris Rogers from Grand State Hotel is the vice chair. So we have new leadership on the board. They're not new to the board, they're just new at the leadership positions. And I mean, I guess we should thank Greg Willits from up here, because he got that thing going, and he's been doing it for 3 years, and he's not always available for times, things like that. He's on some state board level things, and he runs a pretty nice place. So Nancy Conley's still on there, and she's the treasurer now. So really great board. We have a couple of new people, Ryan Lane from Ponderosa Lodge and Spencer from Sisters Bakery, Amiga. So great new people on the board as well, and I just look forward to continued success to come from Explore Sisters for the next foreseeable future. It's really good. Anyway, just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Council goal setting open house, it was good. Last thing, or second to last thing, we toured, as he mentioned, we toured the core. Lou Blanchard showed us around. They're a well-oiled machine over there, and I was very impressed. Yeah, I think that they found their size and their niche. I think that the previous plans of the larger shelter in a different place was probably not as easy to pull off as they were thinking, but now that I see what they're doing over there, I think we need to support them as much as possible, to be honest, because they're doing a really good job. 100 families a week at the food pantry, and only about 15 of them are homeless. So that means there's 85 families out there that need help. So let's keep working on that. One thing he did mention, he really wants to encourage us, and not just him, the organization as a whole, wants to really encourage us to look at safe parking and find a way to provide a framework so smaller organizations like that, maybe they can have a couple of spaces just on their property. I don't know how that works because I think we have a public process that we want to go through to get that, but we have goal setting coming up. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would recommend bringing it up so we can at least get it on our radar and not just have this, are we going to do it or are we not? You know, let's get off our duff and talk about it and see what we can possibly agree on, and maybe look at some different frameworks about how we can make that happen on a scale that Sisters could support. So I'll That's all I'll say on that. The last thing, I want to give some Northwest Park feedback because I think it's important that we all kind of know where we're all standing on this thing, because it makes it easier for us to clarify our own positions by hearing what other positions are. I love the idea of an ice rink. I mean, I kind of want an ice rink. I think it's a great idea. I think phase 2 is way too expensive. It's $9 million. I'm all for phase 1. I love rock climbing and I love the fire tower thing and all the stuff that comes with that. And what was it, $1.5 million or $1 million
For phase 1?
Yeah, something like that. I'm all for it. I say let's go for that and just put phase 2 on a back burner for a while. We're going to have UGB coming. The Parks Board can talk about maybe another place we can put it. I think that at $9 million or whatever it is, it's okay to just go, well, that's big. Let's just slow down on that area. Leave a spot open for it, maybe put in a couple bathrooms or whatever, just for the park itself. And, you know, we don't have to figure out everything every year. Sometimes things come up and you just go, too expensive. It's the reason Adams Streetscape was taking this long. It was a big piece of pie, and we're finally there. But that conversation started 6 years ago. You know, sometimes it just takes time. And I think we're a little hard on ourselves. God bless you. We're a little hard on ourselves trying to get everything done, and you know what? Sometimes stuff just doesn't get done. And I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think we have to fit it to the bandwidth that we have, both with staff, time, and monetarily. So
I don't think you're out of step with the Parks Board either.
Well, I just want you to know where I stand.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to try and force fit an ice rink in a place where I'm not 100% sure that the programming works right. I mean, I love the idea. Don't get me wrong.
That was the concern as well.
Yeah. And the other thing is we're going to need partners on this SPRD, and I don't know if they're ready for it yet. You know, so I think that we can just talk frankly about some of these things and go, you know what? I'm all for phase 1. Let's go. And I mean, let's dig now. Well, maybe not right now. But I think it's good for us to talk about it in forums like this where we're allowed to, because we kind of can't do this in other times, right? We're not making a decision, so we're just having a discussion about what do I think about it, and you guys can go home and go, yeah, Pre's not right. We're going to do it, but it's okay either way. I think it helps city leadership too, with staff and staff, just to kind of know what we're thinking once in a while. So when he said, hey, you know, let's maybe give some feedback. Well, now's as good a time as any, so especially since it's only 7:30 and we're about to go. And I'm done.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned that you were at the Sports Sisters meeting, the barn. It was a good time, and you took a few goodies home. I hope I'll see those on your state reporting. I want to see how they go on there.
I think there's a line for cookies.
Yeah.
In there.
I don't know. It's a work function. Thank you for that.
So the Northwest Park Master Plan is coming back on February 11th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I anticipate there will be a robust conversation during a workshop
Sure.
about this. But yeah, appreciate sharing your thoughts and getting it out there.
It's helpful, right?
Yeah, and we've
Ahead
heard
of
this
time.
feedback, you know, in the open house and the Parks Board. So
And I think when we know stuff is coming, I don't think it hurts to throw it out there once in a while.
yeah, helps us kind of anticipate too.
Anyway, I'm done.
All right.
Sorry that that's as long as I've ever done right there.
I know.
7 years.
Great.
We have 30 seconds.
Yeah. It does say we end at 7:30, and I thought we should end on time for once, so. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you next time.